Ready to dig into a revolution? We're taking a deep dive into CLR James's The Black Jacobins, a book that throws you headfirst into the heart of the Haitian Revolution.
It's such a powerful piece of writing. James does this incredible thing where he takes you beyond the dates and the names.
Right, it's more than just a history lesson.
Exactly. He gets into the real nitty-gritty of revolution, the power struggles, the social dynamics. He shows you how messy it all really was.
And nowhere is that messiness more apparent than in the society that existed before the revolution even began. So before we get into the revolution itself, set the scene for us. What was life like in Saint-Domingue?
Well, picture this. Late 1700s, the island is bursting with sugar plantations, coffee fields. It's like this economic engine, right?
Fueling European desires.
Yeah, fueling European desires, but built on the backs of enslaved Africans. The wealth, the luxury, it all came at a horrific cost.
And it's not just as simple as enslavers versus the enslaved. James talks about this complex social hierarchy. Can you unpack that a bit for us?
Absolutely. You've got the wealthy white planters, obviously, at the top, right? Then you've got this group called mulattoes, free people of color.
Free, but still caught in this system.
Oh, absolutely. And James really emphasizes this fear that the white colonists had, this fear of a mixed-race uprising. They saw these mulattoes, many of whom owned slaves themselves.
Wow, another layer of complexity.
Right, and they saw them as a threat. They feared interracial marriage, feared social mobility. So they created all these laws to limit the rights of free people of color, to keep them in check.
It's like they were trying to hold on to this system by any means necessary.
Exactly. And within this pressure cooker of a society, you have James reminding us about the human cost. He talks about the psychological impact of slavery, the fear, the degradation.
Like that story about De Wimpfen, the French official, and Zimbo the enslaved man?
Yes. Both looking at the same sunset, longing for home, but one is free to return and the other, well, it just shows the stark reality of their situations. It's this really poignant moment in the book.
You can feel the tension building, right?
Yeah.
Like the revolution is almost inevitable.
Almost like watching a pot about to boil over.
Oh.
And as you mentioned, it's not just a simple case of oppressed versus oppressor. There are all these factions, internal divisions, competing interests.
And that's where things get really interesting. But before we get to that, we need to talk about the spark that ignited it all, the French Revolution.
Yeah.
So we've got this powder keg, right? Saint-Domingue just primed to explode, and then bam, French Revolution happens. Talk about shaking things up.
It's huge. Think about it. News traveling across the ocean, through the plantations, the whispers, the rumors. It's this mix of hope and fear, all wrapped up in the ideals of the French Revolution: liberty, equality, fraternity. Powerful stuff.
But those ideals, they get interpreted in very different ways depending on who you are, right?
Totally. For the enslaved population, it's a sign of hope, a chance for true freedom. But for the white colonists,
Oh, a whole different story.
right, they see it as a chance to grab more power for themselves, more control over the colony.
All while holding on to the very system that's making them rich, of course.
Exactly. And this is where James really gets into the hypocrisy at the heart of it all. He talks about the debates in France about giving rights to free people of color.
And how those debates ultimately boil down to money.
Always about the money. The sugar trade, specifically. James uses the example of Barnave. This guy, he starts out supporting rights for free people of color, but then...
But then the pressure's too much.
Exactly. Economic interests win out. It's this betrayal, this broken promise that echoes throughout the revolution. And it's in the midst of all this that Toussaint Louverture emerges.
Now, Toussaint, what a figure. He's almost larger than life. James really captures that.
He was a brilliant strategist, a master at playing the political game. And he understood that this fight was about more than just winning battles.
Right. He was fighting for a whole new society.
Exactly. James highlights his commitment to education, setting up schools, encouraging people to study history, literature. Can you imagine?
It's amazing. He's like, we need to understand the past to build a better future.
Exactly. He knew that true liberation went beyond just breaking physical chains.
It's so inspiring. But as we know, this story doesn't have a simple happy ending.
No, it doesn't. And that's where things take a heartbreaking turn.
It's almost tragic, isn't it? Toussaint, this brilliant strategist, this visionary leader. It feels like he almost had it, almost had true freedom for Saint-Domingue.
He did. He brought them to the brink of independence. But James reminds us that timing is everything in revolutions. And just as Toussaint achieved these incredible victories, the revolution in France, well, it took a turn.
Enter Napoleon.
Exactly, Napoleon Bonaparte. And he had very different plans for Saint-Domingue.
Plans that didn't involve an independent Haiti.
Not even a little bit. See, Napoleon was obsessed with power, with rebuilding the French Empire. And that meant controlling Saint-Domingue, regaining that source of wealth, that sugar.
So Toussaint's vision of a free and independent Haiti, it directly clashed with Napoleon's ambitions.
Absolutely. And this is where Toussaint's faith in the French Republic, his belief in those ideals of liberty and equality, well, it ends up being his downfall.
He couldn't see the betrayal coming.
It's hard to fathom, isn't it, after all he'd seen, all he'd been through. But James suggests that Toussaint, he clung to this belief in the French Republic, this hope that they would ultimately do the right thing.
And Napoleon exploited that belief, didn't he?
Absolutely. He sent troops to Saint-Domingue, ordered them to crush the rebellion and capture Toussaint.
And Toussaint, he was arrested, shipped off to France, imprisoned.
Died a year later, alone in a cold cell, far from the land he fought so hard to liberate.
It's a heart-wrenching end to such a remarkable life. But, as James makes clear, Toussaint's story doesn't end with his death.
Not at all. The revolution, it continued. His lieutenants, Dessalines, Christophe, they took up the mantle inspired by his vision, and they ultimately succeeded in driving out the French.
Leading to the birth of Haiti, the first black republic in the modern world.
A testament to Toussaint's legacy, to the power of his vision even in his absence. And that's something James really drags home. It's a testament to the power of ideas to outlive even the people who first voiced them, to inspire others to fight for a better world. And isn't that what makes the Haitian Revolution and James's telling of it so powerful? It's a story that continues to resonate today, centuries later. A reminder that the fight for freedom, for equality, it's an ongoing struggle. And that even in the face of unimaginable odds, the human spirit, it can endure, it can resist, and it can ultimately triumph. And that's the power of a book like The Black Jacobins. It's not just a history lesson, it's a call to action. A reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping a more just and equitable future.
So pick up The Black Jacobins, dive into this incredible story, and let it ignite something within you, because the fight for a better world continues, and we need every single one of us to join the revolution.